Hello everyone and welcome to part 5 of the series. So in this part we're going to be tackling authentication head on, and we're going to set up a robust login and logout functionality. And then you're going to learn exactly how to display clear error messages when credentials are wrong. Then we're going to build a seamless sign up process with Django user creation form. Then you're going to customize this form to remove all the clutter. Plus, we're going to be using template inheritance to create consistent and beautiful login and registration pages. And the best part is all this latest code is already live on GitHub so that you can follow along easily. Without wasting much time, let's dive right in. Alright guys, welcome back. So in our current setup, all our endpoints are being protected, and that's because when you come into our settings, we added logged in require middleware as a global settings. That actually redirects all unauthorized users to the login page for them to log in. But the problem is this login actually is not set up. That's why we are having page not found 404. And the only way people can log into the system is through the Django administration. But the problem with that is not all our users are going to have administrative access, so they cannot use this part. So in this video, you're going to be setting up authentication so that these people or these users can log in from the front end. And this is very easy to do. First of all, I'm just going to have to come into our Swift app or our project and look for the project main urls.py. So I'm going to click on that. I'm also going to toggle into full screen. And right underneath, I'm just going to include URLs from the Django authentication system. So I'm just going to do authentication like this. And here we're just going to do path. And now we're just going to put that on this URL. So it's just going to be accounts like this / and then I'm also going to bring a comma. And then the next thing is to include. So we are just including the authentication URLs, much like we did for all the apps in our project. So include, and I'm just going to bring this. And from there, we're just going to do Django dots, and that is coming from the contrib like this .auth.urls. So this is actually going to include all the URLs for us. So right after this, I can just save changes, bring up my terminal to see if there are no errors. So now there are no errors, but then when I refresh, I'm just gonna run into an error. So let me refresh, and we are seeing template does not exist. And that's because by default, the authentication system actually requires us to have a folder called registration, and inside the registration, we should also have an HTML file called logged-in.html, and that is going to be in the template. So let's scroll to where we have our template. So we scroll down and we see templates over here. So here, I'm just going to create another folder, and I'm going to call it registration like this. And inside the registration folder, we need to create a file called login.html like this. All right, so let's go back and refresh, and this error should be gone. Now we are seeing this page, this blank page. That's because in our HTML login.html, we do not have anything. So I can just do h1 like this, h1, and then do login like that. Save changes, and that is the page you are going to see when we go onto the login page. So instead of having 404, it's actually redirecting us to the login page like that. Perfect. So what I can do at this point is to come back onto the logged-in.html, and with the authentication system, you're going to have a context variable called form. So I can do form right here, and now I'm going to save changes and then come back and then refresh the page. And now we are seeing our login form right here, and all these things are coming right away from the authentication system. Okay, perfect. Now we need to use the template that we have downloaded. So if you look at this page, we have this very page for the logged in, and that's the page we need to replace with the blank page. So I'm just going to come here and then scroll down to where we have our template, and inside the templates folder or the examples folder, I can just see login-v2.atm. I'm gonna click on that, copy everything, and then I can now close it, come back into the login page, and then paste everything over here. I'm also gonna hide the sidebar like this, and then I'm gonna save the changes, come back onto our page, and then refresh. And now this is what you're seeing. We are seeing this because now our static files are not working. So let's scroll up to where we have the static files up here, and then the first thing I'm just gonna do is to go to the styles. So I'm just gonna do a space here and then do static. But before we even go ahead and do that, we're gonna have to load static like this. And now we are having static being loaded at the very top here. Now I can do static and then click on this one. So I'm just gonna go to where we have the plugins and then cut everything from here and then paste it right inside of this. And then I have to delete the rest of this part. Okay, even with this, I can just save changes and then refresh, and you're going to see some changes. So we see that these things are now coming through. Okay, we also need to do the same thing for this part. So we're gonna do static like this, come back and then cut everything from here and then paste it inside of this and then delete this part. The next is to come to this part and then do the same, say static, and we're gonna do this, cut and then paste it over here. Then I'm also gonna delete this very one. So now when you refresh, all the styles should be working just fine. Perfect. But then we need to also scroll down to where we have the CSS, sorry, where we have the JavaScript, and then load all this one. So I'm gonna come here and then, so I'm just gonna do a space and then do static over here. Yeah, static over here, load this static, come to the plugins and then cut the jQuery, paste it over here, and then delete everything to this part. The same thing applies to the plugins here. Static, come back and then cut all of these ones and then paste it over here. I'm just going to delete this one as well. And then the final part is going to be static like this, and then cut everything from here and then paste them right over this place, and then also delete this one. So let me save changes and then refresh our application. And now everything is working. The CSS and everything, CSS and then the JavaScript are all working perfect. All right, so at this point we need to replace this form because this email and then the password fields are all coming from the template. We need to replace it with the form from our backend. So I'm gonna scroll to where we have these ones. So the first, we have the form here and we have one of the fields. So I'm just gonna collapse this, come here and then collapse this one as well. And now I can delete everything right here. And inside here, we can just replace it with our form. So I'm gonna do this and then say form like that, save changes, and then go back to our page and then refresh. And this is what you are seeing. This is actually being replaced with a form from our back end. All right, so now we also need to make it style a little bit, and we're gonna load crispy form. So I'm gonna come to the very top and then do load, and what we're gonna be loading is not static because static is already loaded, but then we're gonna load crispy underscore forms underscore tags like this. And now that we have loaded crispy form tags, we can scroll to where we have our form, and then we're gonna do pipe like this and say crispy, bit like that. Let's save changes, go back to our page and then refresh to see crispy form in action. Everything is looking perfect now. All right, so we're gonna go back here onto the form, and the action is just gonna be empty like this because we want to use the authentication system URL for the login. And then the method is actually going to be the post method. But what we need to include is the CSRF token like that. And now that we have included the CSRF token, we need to also include our button. we need to include a button inside of the form. So I'm going to come to the page and you see login here, but this is not a button. When you come into the code, it's an href, and it's also outside of the form, but we need to submit this. So I'm just going to come here and then cut this one, come into our form and then paste it over here. And where we have the href, I'm just going to take the href out like this, and where we have the anchor tag, I'm just going to do button, button like this. And now you're going to realize that it replaces or it closes it right here. So let's save changes and then go back onto our page and refresh. Nothing seemed to be changing, but let's try to see if we can log in at this point. Clearly we have been logged out and we want to log in. So my username is Gentech like this, Gentech. Then I'm gonna click on login and we wait for login, and now we have been successfully logged in into our system. Perfect. But now we don't have the button to log out. So now if you want to log out, you got to go into the admin and then go to log out like that. So when I come back here and then refresh, at first it would have sent us the page to the login page where we have the 404. But now it's actually taking us back onto our login page. Okay, so let's test a couple of things. What we want to do is to check if the password is not correct. If our system can just send us or give us a message right on the admin page. So I'm just gonna go to Gentech and this is my password. I'm just gonna clear some of this. Obviously this password is not gonna go through because it's wrong. I'm gonna hit on login and let's see what happens. So now we are seeing please enter a correct username. So now our system can give us messages when the password is not correct. Perfect. Also, we need to change this admin LTE, even though we are using the template, but we need to change it to what we are calling our application. So I'm just going to come into our code, and where it says admin, we're going to do Swift like this, Swift, and then we're going to bring hub over here like that. Save changes, go back and then refresh our application. So I'm just going to refresh it like this. Okay, so now we are seeing Swift Hub like that. Perfect. All right, guys. So now let's try to log in into the system with the correct credentials. So I'm gonna do Gentech, and then now we are having the correct username. I'm gonna hit on login and wait for the system to log me in. All right, so here we need to have the ability to log out of the system. So at this point, what I'm gonna be doing is to go back and copy this notification. So let's go. Let me close this. I don't need it. Close this one as well. And then I'm going to review the sidebar, scroll to where we have the component, and then we're going to open the nav bar. So I'm going to also toggle into a full screen. And we scroll down to where we have the notification. So this notification is actually what is controlling this part, what we are seeing over here. So I just want to copy that one. So I'm going to copy it right from here. Okay, so notification, I'm just gonna copy it right from here. Let me even bring a space right here and then copy the notification. Let me also zoom out a little bit, and then the notification starts from here and then ends here. So I'm gonna copy everything like this, scroll down and then paste it over here. All right, so here it says notification drop down. I'm gonna do it profile drop down. Okay, so this notification count is something that we are not going to be showing, but this href is something that I just want to take out of this place entirely. And inside here I just want to display the image of the logged in user. So we say image, and the source of this image is gonna be I'm gonna do request. So request like this dot, and we're gonna use user dot, and we want to find the profile, say profile dot, and inside the profile we're gonna have access to profile underscore picture underscore URL like this. And now this is actually going to show us the profile picture. Let's save changes and we're gonna see what happens. So I'm gonna refresh the page, and now we are seeing the profile picture here. Okay, but looking at it, it looks so big, and we need to actually control the size of this particular picture. And what I'm gonna do is to come outside of this and then do height, and the height is going to be equal to, we're going to give it 30. And I also want to do width, and the width is also going to be equal to, let's give it 30. And then the auth is going to be what we display if the picture or the profile picture is not found. So we're going to say user picture like that, picture like this. Let's save changes and then go back onto our page and then refresh. And now we are seeing this. Perfect. We also want to give it a class. So let me come here and then give it a class. So it's a class, and the class is just going to be, so the name of the class is going to be img dash, and we're going to do circle like this. And then the next class is going to be elevation like this dash 2. All right, so let's save these changes and see what this class applies to. And now we are seeing it in a circular form like this. Perfect. Okay, so now when you click on this, you are seeing notifications, and that's because we copied it and we have not made any modification to this part. So let's make some modification. All right, so at this part, we are having the image that is going to this part, and we also have the div, and inside the div, we have a spam, and this spam is actually showing us the notification count. But this time around, we don't want to have the notification count, but what we rather want to have is going to be the username. So I'm just going to copy everything right from this place and then clear everything from this place like that, and then paste this. But instead of showing profile picture, we're going to say full underscore name like that. And now that we have the full name, we also want to greet the person with a welcome message. So we say welcome, comma, and then we pass the request the user the profile the full name like that. Let me save changes, come back here and then refresh to see what happens. So I'm gonna click on that and it says welcome Techie Musa. So the logged in user is gonna have this welcome message like that plus the name. Perfect. Okay, so at this moment, what we're gonna be doing is to have a number of links over here. So the first link we're gonna have when we click on the picture over here is just gonna be settings. So these settings will allow us to probably do some few things. We are just going to be implementing those in future videos, but for now I'm just going to take out this for loop over here, and I also have to take the end of the for loop, and right at this place I'm just going to also take out the notification.verb like that. And after I have taken out this one, I don't need access to the span over here. So I'm just gonna do settings like this, and where it say FAS and we are showing envelope, we are not gonna be showing envelope, we're just gonna be showing the gear button, the gear icon. So that is gonna be COG like this. Let's save changes, come back and then refresh our page, and now when I click on this, you are seeing settings. Okay, so now we are seeing the settings, and the next thing we want to do is to copy everything, the href together with the divider, copy it, come down here and then paste it over here. All right, so at this point, I'm just going to call this logout. And this logout, when you refresh, you're going to see a logout button. So let's refresh and you're going to see the logout link like this. Refresh, click, and you're seeing the logout link. But this time around, it's gonna have this gear button, and that's something that we don't want. So you're gonna come here, and then instead of showing the gear, we're gonna do sign dash out dash, and we're gonna do out like this. Save changes, go back onto our page, and then we're gonna refresh, click on this, and now we are seeing sign out or log out like that. Perfect. The next thing we're gonna do is, when you look at this, it's actually having href, but we need a button. So what we're gonna be doing is to take out the href completely, and then where we have the anchor tag, we're gonna do button like that. Click on this and it's just gonna close it over here. Perfect. The next thing we also have to do is to make sure that we wrap this one in the form, since we are just going to do a post request. So what I'm going to do is say form and select this one. Okay, so I'm just gonna cut the end of the form over here and then wrap it over here. Okay, so I just also want to indent this one right inside like that and then bring this one back. Perfect. Okay, so now we need to pass the action, and then the action is gonna be URL, and the URL is gonna be logout like that. Okay, so after we have passed the URL, we also need to pass the method, and then the method is just gonna be a post method. So you say method, and it's just gonna be post method like this, post like that. Now we have the post method over here. Since it's a post method, we also need to have the CSRF token. So I'm gonna do CSRF token like this. Save changes. We're gonna go back onto our page and then refresh. And now I'm just gonna click on this, and now we are seeing the logout. Click on logout, and now it actually logs out of the system. Perfect. But the issue with this is now it's logging us back onto the login page of the admin site, and that's not what we want. So you're gonna have to correct that. Review my sidebar here, and I'm just gonna go into the settings. So click on settings and scroll to the very bottom here. Okay, so at this part we need to pass or add a couple of settings over here. So I'm just gonna make a comment here and then do custom Django auth settings like this. Okay, so what we need to tell Django is that we need to tell it, or we need to show it our login URL. So you say login underscore URL, and the login URL is gonna be this, and we say login like that. And also we need to tell it our logout URL. So we say logout underscore URL, and it's just gonna be logout like this. Sorry, logout like that. Okay, so now that we have actually told Django that our login URL is gonna be on the login, and then the logout is also gonna be here. So by default, upon successful login, the authentication system is going to redirect you to the profile page, but we do not have profile page. We need to tell Django to redirect us to a specific page of our choosing. So the way to do that is to say login underscore redirect like this underscore URL, and that is going to be where we want Django redirect us to. So we need to get the URL. So I'm gonna come to accounts. So inside accounts we have dashboard. Perfect. So I'm just gonna copy this, and then I'm also gonna go into our Swift tab, the main project, and the main URL is gonna be accounts. So we can now do accounts over here, accounts colon, and then we bring the dashboard URL like that. And then the final piece we need to add is going to be logout redirect URL. So when we log out, where do we want to be redirected to? So I'm just going to copy this and then paste it right here. And instead of login, I'm just going to do logout like this. And the URL is just going to be our login URL. So we want to redirect to the login URL. Say login, but you know, I have already defined this variable here. I could just leave it like this and everything is gonna work perfect. But once I have actually defined it, I'm just gonna copy the login URL like this and then paste it over here. It's the same thing. I'm just gonna save changes. I'm gonna come back to this page. Now I want to access the login page. I'm gonna do this, and now we have the login page. Go back to Gentech like this, and then try to log in. So we wait for it to redirect us onto our dashboard. But now we can just click on this, come to log out, and now we expect that the moment we click on log out, it's gonna redirect us onto the login page. So I'm gonna click on it, and now it's gonna redirect us onto the login page instead of the logout page of the Django administration. All right, guys. So if you found this tutorial very helpful, don't forget to like, share, comment, and I'm just going to see you in the next video. All right, guys. So now we want to log back into the system. So I'm just going to go to Gentech and then click on login. So now we wait for the system to log us in. So now we have successfully logged in. All right. So now if we need to create a user, we can only go into the admin and then create users or add users at this very part. But that means only admin users can create or add users. But we want to give users the ability to register for new membership. All right, so to do that, you're going to have to go into accounts because that's where we are going to add the logic for creating a new user or registering a new person onto the system. And then I'm just going to go to the very top. Let me clear this one because I don't need it anymore. And now we just say, make a comment, say user registration like that. And this is where we are going to do the logic or provide the logic for that. So this one, I'm just going to do a function based view. So we say def and the name, I'm just going to give it register view like this. Okay, so let me make a capital view like this. And then we're going to pass a request. So we say request like that. Okay, so from here, we need to return. So what we're going to be returning is just going to be, okay, so let's return and we are just going to do render like this, and let's check to see if render is imported, and it's imported at the very top here. Okay, so with the render we need to pass request, and after we have passed request we also need to pass the template. So we're gonna do registration and /register .html like that. So registration and then register.html. So I'm just going to copy this name, scroll to where we have the registration. Let me collapse this and we go into our templates, go into registration, and now we can create a new file. I'm just going to call it register.html like that. Perfect. This template now exists. So let me save changes. All right. So at this point, we now have to create our logic. So we first of all want to check to see if the request is a post request. So we say if, and we say request dot, and we are checking to see if the request dot method is equal to post. So if it is equal to post. So if it is equal to post, what do? So we say form. We're going to define a form. By this form, we have not actually created it yet. So I'm just going to go into the accounts again, this folder. And inside the accounts, I'm just going to create a file called forms.py. So we say forms.py like that. And inside the forms.py, we're going to have to import. So we say from Django import, and now let's import forms like this. And now that we have imported form, we also need to import user creation form. So we don't want to write everything from scratch. We need to import user creation form from Django. So we say from django.contrib.auth dot, and then the next thing is going to be forms. We need to import, and now we are going to import user creation form. You can see it right here. Now that we have imported user creation form, we also need to import user. So we say from Django dot, and we say contrib dot, and the next one is going to be auth dot models import, and now we can import user like that. Now that we have imported this, we need to define the class. So we're going to say class, and this class is going to be called register form like this. And this register form is just going to take the user creation form, the one that we have imported. It's going to inherit that. That is going to make our life so much easier than writing everything from scratch. All right, so at this point, we also need to define a class called meta. And this meta class, we need to provide the model that we are creating the user for. So we say model, and this model is going to be user, the one that we have imported at the very top. And which of the fields do we want to include in this form? So we say fields fields like this, and it's just going to be a list. So this list is going to have all the fields that we need to include. So the first one is going to be username, and then the next one we're going to do email like this, and then the next one is also going to be password. So you're going to have password word one, that is going to be the main password we are setting, and then the next one is going to be password 2. So this password 2 is going to be the confirmation password. So we say password 2 like that. And now that we have done this, we can just save changes and then copy this form. So we're going to come to this part, and then we're going to do from dot forms import, and now we are going to import this very register form. So now we can say form is equal to, and we bring a register form like this, and the next argument we need to pass is request dot, and it's just going to be a post method like that. Okay, so this is actually going to give us our form. So now we need to make a condition to see if the form is valid. So we say if, and then the next one is going to be form, sorry, not caps, but if form and dot is valid. So we call dot is underscore valid method like this, valid. So we call the method like this. So if the form is valid, what we're going to be doing is we say user, and then the user is going to be form dot save. So we are saving the form, and that is going to be the user. So everything that has been entered into this field is going to be saved into the user model. Now that we have done this, we need to send a message or display a message to the user that the form or their account has been created successfully. So that we need to import messages. So we're going to have to come to the top here, and then we have to import our messages. So we say from Django dot, and we're going to do contrib. We're going to import messages like this, import messages just like that. So now that we have imported messages and we have actually saved the form, what we can do is to display the message. So we say messages dot, and we're going to give it the tag. So the tag is going to be the type of message. So this time around it's just going to be success because it has been created successfully. And we're going to pass request like this. And now that we have passed request, the next thing to do is to display the actual message. What do we want to show to the individuals or the person creating the message, creating the account? So you say registration is successful, or like that. That is the message we want to display to them. And right after this, we need to redirect the user to the login page so that they can log in with their new credentials. So we're going to do return, and we're going to redirect like this. And where we're going to be redirecting to is going to be the login URL or the login page. So we say login. So now we need to see if login. So now we need to check to see if redirect is actually imported. So we're going to go to the very top here where we have the shortcut, and then the render, we do redirect like this. Perfect. All right, so if the form is not valid, so that is going to be the else aspect, the else. So that is when the form is not valid. We also need to display messages. So we say messages dot, but this time around it's not gonna be success, it's gonna be error. So we have an error over here, and what we want to display, first of all, we need to pass the request, and after we have passed the request, we need to pass the actual message body, and that is gonna be please correct the errors below. And this time around, Django is going to display the messages or the errors over here. Perfect. Right after this, we also need to check this. So we say if the request.method is post, but what if it's not a post request? So we're going to do else if it is any other request other than post, we need to show them the form. We're going to say form, but they are not going to have access to any of this logic. They cannot actually create the account. So this actually concludes everything. We can now create a user, but then we need to go into the accounts URLs, and then we're going to have to import register view over here. So I'm just gonna go down here and then do path, and this path, we first of all gonna put it on register. So we say register like that, and we bring a comma, and from there we say register view. So we say register view. We are not going to do dot as view because this is a function based view, and the next is to give it a name. So the name is going to be equal to, we're going to call it register like this, register like this. Okay, perfect. So now everything looks good, but we need to link this one onto our system. So we're going to go into the login page. I'm going to scroll down to where we have the login, and when you scroll down, we are having register account over here. So where we are doing the register new membership, you're gonna clear it and do URL and the URL, and then the URL is gonna be accounts colon, and we say register like that. So this is the register we are passing, and then the accounts is actually coming from the Swift app, the main URL. When you come here, we have accounts like this. So I think we are good to go. Let me save changes, and then we're going to also bring up our terminal to see if everything is running, and everything is running. So I'm just going to come here and then refresh the page. No errors are seen, but to test it, we need to first of all log out, and then once you have logged out, you're going to click on register new membership. And when we click on register new membership, it actually brings us to the login page for us to log in. This is because when you come back onto our settings, inside the settings, we are putting a global login requirement over here. So it's actually going to protect all of our pages. But now we need to tell Django that it should actually exclude the register page because they don't need to be authenticated before they need to register. And to do that, we're going to have to, okay, let me toggle back like this, come to the views, and inside the views, I'm just gonna have to import one more thing. So I'm just gonna come here. Okay, let's do it at the very top here, and we're gonna say from Django, Django dot, and now we're gonna go into contrib dot, and we're gonna say auth dot decorators. You're going to have to import, and now we are going to import login not required, login not required. So I'm just going to copy login not required, come to where we are doing the user registration, where we define the function, and we're going to do at, and I'm just going to paste it over here. So this is to tell Django that it should actually exempt the register page. It doesn't have to be protected. So I'm just going to save changes, come back here, and then I'm just gonna go on to come back here, and this is actually redirecting us to the login page. But then when we click on register new membership, we are now seeing the register page, and there is nothing inside of the register page, and that's because we have actually not kept anything inside. So I'm just gonna do h1 like this, and we say register, and then I'm gonna come out and then do form, but we have actually not passed form. So we come back into our register view here, and then we need to pass a context. So the context we need to pass is gonna be this, and then we say form like this, and this form is just gonna be equal to the form we have defined at the very top here. So I'm gonna copy it and then paste it over here. So when we do this, we now have access to the form in the register view. So now I can save changes, come back to the page, and when I refresh, hopefully we should see all of our forms here. So now we are seeing the form that we actually created. All right, perfect. All right, guys, so if you found this tutorial very helpful, don't forget to like, share, comment, and I'm just gonna see you in the next video. All right, guys, so now on our register page, you see the register, and we have these forms over here. That's something that we need to fill, but we cannot create. There is not even a button to register a new membership. But before we even go ahead and do that, I just want to bring up the login page from the template, and this is what you have, and this is the register page. All right, so if you look at the two pages, they have a lot in common. The only difference is just going to be the number of fields over here compared to what we have in the login page. We're going to first of all create a base.html. That is going to be the common structure for all the login and then the register page so that they can both inherit. We actually do not want to duplicate the code too much. So at this point, I'm just going to come into the login.html, and where we have the login.html, I'm just going to cut everything right from there. And then I'm also going to bring my sidebar over here, and inside the registration folder, I just want to create another file, and I'm just going to call it auth_base.html like this. And inside this, I'm just going to paste all of our code over here. All right, so now when we save changes and then go back to the login page, it's not going to have anything because we have actually cut the entire code. So I'm just going to scroll to the very top over here, and where we have the title, I'm just going to do block. I'm just going to create a block over here. So I'm just going to do block, and I'm going to make a title like this. So after we have had this, we don't need this title, the closing part, we don't need it. And then within this, I'm just going to put Swift Hub over here. So we say Swift Hub like that. Okay, so this is going to be our blog title. That's perfect. Also, I'm just going to search for card-body. So card-body. Yeah. All right, so if you take a look at it, we have Swift Hub over here at the very top, and that is going to run on all of our pages. So you're going to leave it in the auth-base.html so that it is actually inherited on all the pages. But then the page specific things actually start from the card body. So I'm going to bring this one down like this. And here you see sign in to start your session. That is because you copy the code from the login. So when you go to register for the template, we are also going to see the same thing. So I'm going to collapse this one like this and then cut everything here. So when I cut it, I'm just going to do block, and this time around, I'm going to call it content like this, content. And I'm just going to take out this content, the closing part like that. And within here is where we are going to put the login specific and then the register specific code over here. So let's save changes. Okay, so I'm just going to go into the login page. And here, what I'm going to be doing is to first of all do extends. So we say extends, and this time around it's just gonna be registration / and the next thing is gonna be auth_base.html. so that is where we are going. So the next thing we're gonna do is the block title. So you say block, and we say title like that. So title like this. Like I always say, we take out this part, and what we're gonna have at this point is gonna be login like this. And I'm also gonna bring a pipe, and the next thing we're gonna put is gonna be block.super like that. And that is actually going to inherit or use the title that we have kept over here. So that is going to be what we have when we go to this page. That is going to be the title. Okay, so from there, I'm also going to go here and then load crispy form. So we say load, and that is going to be static, but we say crispy underscore forms underscore tags like this. That is actually going to load the crispy form like for us. And so when you go into the auth-base.html, we have to delete this one because we don't need it. And when we come down, we're gonna bring our block content. So we say block, and it's just gonna be content like this, and we're gonna also cut this part out like that. And then within this, I'm just gonna paste what we cut from the base.html here, the one that we cut from this place. I'm just gonna paste it over here because that's gonna be the login specific page content. So I'm just gonna save changes, come to the auth, and then also save changes. So now on the login page, you are seeing this. All right, so let me click on the register, and still on the register page, you are also seeing this. And that's because we have to come back to the login and then copy everything we have in the login and then go back onto the register and then paste everything right here. The few changes we have to make is, instead of saying sign in to start your session, you can say, okay, so let me go to what we have for the template itself, and it say register a new membership. So I'm gonna copy this, come back into our code, and where it says sign in, we're gonna paste this one over here. We need to change this one to register like that. Save changes. I'm just gonna come back and then refresh our page. So here now we are seeing, all right, so now we are seeing the entire form, the Swift tab, register new membership, and we have the helper test, and it actually looks lengthy. But let's try to see if we can actually create a new member. So I'm just gonna do candycart like that, and then the email address is just gonna be candycart@gmail.com like that. And from there, we're also gonna do password. So provide my password, and you also have to read through some of the helper tests that is actually going to inform you of what you can do and what you cannot do when it comes to setting up a password. And from here, I'm also going to have to repeat it like that, and you make sure that the password you entered for this part is going to be equal to the password you have entered for this part. And now we are seeing register, and I'm just gonna click on register to see if our account is just gonna be created, and it has actually redirected us to the login page, because when you come into accounts and then we say when it is actually created, it should redirect us to the login page. That means this account has actually been created. So let me try to log in with Candy part like that. I'm gonna come down and then provide my password like this, and then I'm gonna click on login. We wait, and now it's actually redirect us to the page, and it says Candy Cat, because Candy Cat has no full name. It's actually using the username, so everything looks very perfect. And this is a brand new user we have actually created using the registration logic that we created. But before we go ahead, let's go back into the register page, and here now it says register a new membership. All right, so when you're on the register page, you need to bring a button. We bring a button here and tell them that if they already have an account, they can log in instead of creating a new membership. So here I'm just gonna clear this one, and I'm just gonna write I already have a membership like that. And now we're gonna redirect them to the login page. So instead of accounts colon register, this one is gonna be login like that. And let me save changes, and we're gonna go back here, and first of all we need to log out. So now we have successfully log out. We're gonna click on register new membership, and it actually brings us to the register page. But then when you're on the register page, we now need to go to the login page if we already have an account. So you're gonna click on register new membership, and sorry, you're gonna click on I already have an account, and it brings us to the login page. Perfect. All right, guys, so now we are on the register page, and if you take a look at the form, it looks a little bit lengthy, and that's because of the helper test that comes with the Django user creation form. So we have a helper test here, we have another here, starting from this place to that, and then when you scroll down to, you have another one here. So this is actually causing the form to be lengthy, and there are a couple of ways you can fix this. So the first way is gonna be maybe creating a simplified form that subclasses the user creation form, and that is going to fix this. Another way is going to be actually modifying the user creation form to remove the helper text. So I'm just going to go by modifying it to remove this helper text. So first we're going to open the forms.py in the accounts, and now we need to override the dunder init method right under the class meta. So we're going to do def, and we're going to do dunder init like this, and this is actually going to take instance of the form. So we pass off, and then it's also going to take keyword ask and then ask. So we do keyword ask, and now we have passed these ones over here. Now we're also gonna go and ahead and then call the super method. So we say super, and now we need to access the init, the dunder init method like this. And from here, we're gonna pass this args and then keyword args. So let me copy it over here, and then I'm gonna paste it right at this place. All right, so now that we have access to this, we're gonna make a comment and say removing helper, maybe helper text like this. Okay, so at this point, we first of all gonna call the form. So solve dot, and we're gonna want to have access to the field. So we say fields, and this fields is what you have actually defined over here. And now that we have this, we bring a square bracket and then a single quote. Now we want to access the individual fields over here. So username has a helper text because when you come up here, there is a text over here. All right, so we want to remove that one. Then we say dots, and we do help underscore text, and now we want to set that one to none. Okay, so I'm just gonna save changes, come to our page over here, and then when I refresh, this one should be gone. Email is not having, but this one is having. So I'm just gonna refresh. So when I do refresh, this one is gone. The helper test is gone. Email wasn't having a helper test already, but we have password 1 and password 2 are all having helper test. So I'm just gonna come here, and now that this one is working, I'm just gonna copy and paste it 2 more times. Okay, so the first one is just gonna be the password 1. So I'm gonna copy password 1 and then paste it over here, and then we say help test is equal to none. And then the next one is gonna be password 2, and we can come here and then paste it over here. So I'm just gonna save changes, and then I'm just gonna refresh, and all these ones should be gone now. So now we are having our form to be very simplified. Suppose you want to have access back to any of them. If it is maybe the username you want to show, you can just comment out and then refresh the page like this, and you're now going to have access to this one. So I'm just going to undo that, save changes, refresh, and this is what we're going to have over here. All right, guys, so this actually concludes the parts 5 of the series that has to do with the authentication and all that. So if you are finding this series, this tutorial very helpful, don't forget to leave a like, comment, share, and then subscribe so that you get notified when I release part 6. All right, guys, I'm just gonna see you in part 6 where we deal with the Kanban board creation and all that. It's just gonna be fun, and I'm just gonna see you there.